So today we have a really special presentation from Maridell, Hahn, and Schrader, who are longtime Master Gardener volunteers. And what we're going to be doing is displaying what a conversation would look like through the Florida Friendly Yard Advisor program. I haven't seen a presentation like this before, so I'm excited to see what they're going to do. So what we're going to do is also hold questions until the end, because I want to get through the whole conversation. It's meant to be reenacting what a real conversation would look like if you actually had a Florida Friendly Yard Advisor come out, one of these Master Gardener volunteers who have a lot of knowledge. Without any further ado, I'll let Maridell and Pam take it off.
So what Maridell and I are going to be talking about today, I'm Pam, by the way, are two programs that are part of the Florida Friendly Landscapes program. And Florida Friendly Landscapes is a program within the UF-IFAS organization, which is the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. So that's the Florida Friendly Landscapes program. And two of those programs within Florida Friendly Landscape is the Florida Friendly Yard Advisor program and the Yard Recognition program. So we're going to be mostly talking about the advisory program. Maridell and two other Master Gardeners kind of lead that in Pinellas County. So I'll let her talk some about that. And what we're going to do is go through a consultation, if you will, of the Master Gardener and a homeowner. So I'm going to be the homeowner. So we're just going to kind of have a dialogue of what a conversation or a consultation of that would look like. So I'm going to let Maridell talk about, first of all, the Florida Friendly Landscaping Principles, kind of go over those briefly, and then we'll go into the advisory program.
Okay, well, first, just a little bit of background on the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program. It's a joint program by IFAS and the Florida Department of Environmental Resources. It was established to try to conserve water, reducing waste and pollution, and create wildlife habitat and prevent erosion. That was the purpose of it. That's why it was established. It's a joint venture. It works in the cooperation of the state's 5 water management districts to promote water conservation and protect water quality. The 9 Florida-friendly principles are the cornerstone of the program. Based on UF science, the principles teach homeowners, developers, landscape designers, and maintenance workers how to implement environmentally sound design and maintenance techniques in their landscapes. So we're going to go over the principles, the 9 principles, just very shortly. Principle 1 is right plant, right place. If you put your plant in a place where it is used to growing, it's going to thrive. You've got to put it in a place where it's suited to its needs, whether it be water or shade, whatever it may be. Put the plant in a place where it's going to have the best chance to grow. Don't try and alter the site to fit the plant. Principle number 2, water efficiently. Overwatering can deplete water supplies and make landscapes more prone to pest infestation, as well as, of course, raising our water bills. Principle 3 is fertilize appropriately. If fertilization is needed, use the UF recommended application schedules. Fertilize at the correct times and in the correct amount. That will supply plants with the nutrients they need, and it will help avoid pest problems and excessive growth. Principle 4, mulch. Mulch helps retain soil moisture, inhibits weed growth, and protects against soil erosion. Just use the right kind of mulch, the recommended mulch. Do not use cypress. Principle number 5, attract wildlife. Make your yard attractive to wildlife with berry bushes, bird baths, bat houses, dead snags of wood. We want to attract wildlife. Principle 6, manage yard pests responsibly. The Florida Friendly Landscape Program advocates a holistic approach to pest control. Low impact chemicals and targeted chemicals, if necessary, can be used, but we want to minimize environmental impact. Principle number 7, recycle. We want to recycle yard waste by composting. We don't want yard waste to end up in storm sewers. Principle number 8, manage stormwater runoff. Use porous pavers, rain barrels, rain gardens, swales, and berms to keep rainwater, which may contain grass clippings, fertilizer, etc., from running into storm drains. And the last principle, principle number 9, protect the waterfront. If you live on a waterway, preserve a 10-foot maintenance-free zone between your landscape and the water. So these are the 9 principles that are part of the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program. And this is what we all adhere to.
And as native plant gardeners and landscapes, I think these principles certainly lend themselves to those types of landscapes. So it falls right in place. So next, Maridell will talk about the yard advisory program.
Yes, the yard advisory program, it's a program we created it a few years ago, a few other master gardeners and myself. And we decided that a program was needed for homeowners where we could teach homeowners these 9 principles and help them to design a Florida-friendly landscape using primarily native plants, but if not all native, then some, other plants that we consider Florida-friendly, no invasives. And we wanted them to learn how to use these 9 principles. So that's how the program was established. We based it on a similar program in Manatee County, not the same, but similar. And we thought this is what we need in Pinellas. So that's how we created it. So we try to teach them, how to design a yard that's Florida friendly. The way the program works is we will set up, until the COVID-19 shutdown, we would set up appointments with homeowners. They would come into the extension office. We'd spend about 2 hours with each of them. That could vary. We would ask them to bring in a sketch of their property. We wanted it to show all the pavement structures that were on it. And we would go over the sketch with them. We would try to determine what it was they wanted out of their landscape. And then we would try to help them to design something that would be appropriate, Florida friendly, and attractive.
So these are typical, like once a homeowner emails, the email was on the previous page and I'll show it again at the end. So once a homeowner sends an email, says they're interested in this program, then the master gardener will contact and kind of ask these kind of questions that you see here. They're in an HOA, because obviously if you're in an HOA, there might be some stricter rules and so forth. They ask for soil testing, but that's not mandatory. Any kind of pictures or sketches or anything like Maridell said of your existing home and landscape, especially large structures, large trees. And what are you trying to accomplish? Do you want to attract wildlife? Do you want to replace your turf? Add some shade, or just be more environmentally friendly, and that's what it's all about. Are there specific plants you are interested in? And if there are, then they will, certainly trying to incorporate that into your design. Right. So the next few slides, I'm just going to kind of show what I provided to Maridell and the team to give advice on. I'm having trouble advancing this. Okay. Sorry, guys. What's wrong here? Okay. So first of all, I kind of gave them answers to those questions, what I'm looking for. My yard has a lot of San Augustine. I'd like to replace as much as possible. But I need to maintain enough in the backyard for my dog to run and maintain some in the front as well. So I'm looking mostly at the front and backyards, and possibly something along the fence on my side yard. I want to go strictly native. For the front yard, I want to landscape the easement area and around a large live oak that I have. There is turf around the oak, and I'd like to create some kind of understory there. In the front planter, I do have some coonties that are native, and I also have crotons and ropey I'd like to get rid of, but you know, we'll talk about that some other time. So what I gave to Maridell was a sketch of my yard. So this is kind of the layout of my house, and pointed out the things that we talked about, like you have a shed in the backyard. There's a large oak in my neighbor's yard that provides some shade over there. I do have a row of Fakahatchee grass there, but then there's a concrete block showing the gate. And in the front yard, there's a walkway leading up to the gate. Show her where the driveway is and my mailbox, and around my mailbox, I do have some native grasses and some beach sunflower. And then on the other side, in the back, I have a large magnolia tree. And I do have a native garden back there. It's a wildflower garden. I started it planting for butterflies, and it's just kind of grown. So that extends around into the side. I have a pergola there, and have some crossvine growing on the pergola. There is a crepe myrtle there that one day I'll get rid of. And along the east side of the house is a trailer with kayaks. So we're just going to leave that alone because there's really no room for anything. So you can see in the front yard where I have the live oak, the sidewalk and the easement. And like I said, the planter does have some stuff in it, and then the San Augustine. So I did a Google Earth shot of my home so they could kind of see, you know, looking down what it looks like. So I sent that to her as well. And anybody that's not familiar with that, it's pretty easy to do. And then I took a picture of the front yard so you can see the live oak and you can see the massive amount of San Augustine. And so in the front yard, again, I wanted to replace the San Augustine and then create an understory around the oak tree. So Maridell, what were your suggestions for that?
For the front yard? Well, we were talking about the live oak tree, and I know you want to get rid of as much grass in the front yard as you can, and you wanted an understory. So I was thinking right away of coonties. Now, something I really think would be beautiful if it will survive there are the oak leaf hydrangea. And I suggested it, but we are in zone 10A now, and that is the outer range of that is supposed to be 9B. So you could try it if you wanted, you know, and just see if it's going to survive or not if you didn't plant too much of it. But I think it would be beautiful there. And they do make that, that does come in a dwarf version, a peewee, which is only about 5 feet tall as opposed to 9 feet for the standard. So that would be my suggestion, either the oak leaf hydrangea or the coonties. And then maybe in front of that, I would put some red flowers possibly in front. I think I had a red lily I was thinking about. That would be pretty in front of that. But or salvia, scarlet salvia, rouge plant, something like that in front of whatever you plant, the coontie or the oak leaf hydrangea. So that was my suggestion for there. And of course, there's other things. Close to the house, you have liriope, and it's going around a corner, coming like back towards the house. Yes. And then across the front, you've got, okay, you're on the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is what you gave for advice here, right?
I'm sorry, what?
This is the sketch that you sent back to me of the front yard.
Of the front yard, right. So I was suggesting if you want to get rid of the liriope, maybe some silver buttonwood. Another thing I think would be pretty would be blueberry, like the Darrow's blueberry. That's about 2 to 3 feet tall. I thought that would be nice there, but you need acidic soil. Darrow's, D-A-R-R-O-W-S, blueberry. That's a native. It's very pretty.
And edible.
Yes, and it provides food for wildlife. So that would be
Possibly
an
not.
alternative to silver buttonwood. I would actually extend that plant area. I'd make it much bigger than what it is now. That's going to cut down on the grass to mow, which was one of your objectives. And it would really create a nicer and more attractive plant area, I believe. I think a water feature would look nice back in the corner by the house, by the front between the front door and the window. And probably in the front yard, maybe a fountain would be nice, in my opinion. I would plant wildflowers around that. You have coontie already. I keep those. Maybe on the very far corner of the house, the right corner, I was thinking a Jamaican caper. You've got a little bit different color in there because it's got the bronze leaves. It's beautiful when it blooms. And in the other corner, that next to either the silver buttonwood or the blueberry, I would maybe put, let's see, what was I thinking of there? Maybe a Bahama cassia there. But I mean, you've got a choice of different small plants that wouldn't get too big. So those were my thoughts there. So that's going to cut down, if you enlarge that plant area, going to cut down on a lot of grass mowing. I was thinking of a fire bush in the corner between the driveway and the front sidewalk. You're going to also, mulch back in there. You're going to get rid of some more grass there, put a mulched area around there, and probably just the fire bush in there, unless you want to add something around that. In the easement area, you wanted to do something with that. A suggestion I had was for probably 2 silver palms. They don't get too big, so they would fit in that area well. And then either your dwarf palmetto, or you could do the silver buttonwood there if you wanted to, and maybe some muley grass. I think that's all you would need really in the easement, unless you wanted to add some blanket flowers or coreopsis or something, any type of wildflowers there.
The silver palms and the palmetto, and possibly some muley grass in there for the pretty fall colors.
Those are my thoughts on it. Yeah. So.
And that we did talk about irrigation. We do have an irrigation system, so that's another thing that that a homeowner would be asking to.
We would be asking about irrigation, but I do know that you have an irrigation system, so you're okay, And of course, a lot of these native plants, once they're established, irrigation is not a big issue, but It would be initially.
One less thing to maintain.
Right. So by the mailbox, you have, I forgot what you've got there. You've got different flowers
and a couple of different native grasses.
Yeah, and that's to the left of that driveway. Now, I don't know if you have room there, but I was thinking like 2 weeping upon hollies there, if you want to put anything. They don't take up that much space if they're the weeping, because they're not real broad. And it would just be kind of pretty there. So that's my thoughts on the front yard. And there's lots of different ways to go. There's other plants, that we talked about, and yeah, but I mean, there's just lots of choices.
Right. And just kind of as a note, when the master gardeners meet with the homeowner at the extension office, they take them out to the gardens, and y'all probably know there's a nice native garden there. So they'll take them out and actually show them plants so they can see what they look like.
Yeah,
so,
that's what we do. After we discuss things with them, we take them outside and we show them the plants we just talked about, the plants that we've recommended. So it's kind of a great place to meet with homeowners because we've got access to all the pollinators, to a nice native garden. So, just to so many things there.
Yeah, and the butterfly garden has a lot of natives in it too.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay, so on to the side yard. So the oak tree, you can probably see the oak tree in my neighbor's yard over there. So there's some filtered shade there, irrigation as well. My dog likes to jump up on the fence and knock the squirrels off. and he's caught one or two, and that's not too pleasant. So I wanted to plant something along there to try to avoid, to keep him from jumping on the fence. So he jumps up there and he pounces on the fence and jumps back down and knocks the squirrels down. So what are your suggestions there?
Well, I was thinking at first that you wanted a vine, and I had suggested coral honeysuckle or snowberry. Snowberry's not truly a vine. I mean, it does need some support, but I thought either of those. And then you were telling me you might want a little bit more of a shrub there. I was also thinking, go ahead.
Something more that would deter him from jumping.
Yeah, I was thinking also of sparkleberry or necklace pod as two other choices there. And I think we also touched on Walters viburnum and coffee. Of course, you could do coffee.
Yeah, I think maybe with the shade, the coffee might be a good one.
Coffee would be good as long as you've got some shade there. Right. Right. It really just depends, on how you want to use that space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the main objective there. Of course, it would, make it more attractive there too, but yeah, keeping from knocking the squirrels down.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's go to the backyard.
Okay.
So I do have a native garden, wildflower garden back there. And I think it's all natives. I might have some pintas or something back there for the butterflies. But there is a lot of grass. And again, I need to leave some turf, for the dog to run. He likes to run. So what are your suggestions for the backyard?
Well, you already have the native garden. I was thinking you've got a Jatropha peregrina there, which is a nice small tree. I personally would maybe like a fiddlewood there. I like fiddlewoods. They're a nice size. I like the leaves on them, and they're very fragrant. And if you were to plant that maybe off the corner of that patio, and I see you have another patio there too, either one, wherever you thought the placement would work. I think it's a nice small tree, and I think it would be something you would like. You also thought you might want to add a water feature back there. And you could do that. And what you might want to do, if you feel like putting the work into it, is doing one of these little ponds where you can buy the liners and put them in and put stone around them. You can get as creative as you want with something like that. And then, of course, put other plants around that. So those were some ideas I had there. Over on the west side, once again, we could do coffee, I think, or really the other plants that I mentioned, you could probably do any of those. The other plants I mentioned for the west side of the house, I think any of those would do well there. And that's pretty much all I talked about for the backyard, because it looks like you've got quite a bit back there.
Yeah, I think a water feature in the backyard, and then I'd maybe do one in the front, but in the backyard, because we tend to use that more.
Right. Well, it's always good, to attract wildlife, whatever you can have in the way of water there, or food, of course, for wildlife, or bat houses, bird houses, anything like that.
Yeah, I have a couple of bird baths, so I do have a water source for some
good.
Yeah, bird houses, that would be nice.
Yeah, bird houses, old snags, if you have trees and that fall down or branches, keep some of those. You don't have to get rid of all of them.
Yeah, I pick up logs all the time and put it back there. I don't have a snag, but try to pick odds and ends just to put back there for wildlife, hiding places and places for them to rest.
That's right. So, I mean, you just want to make it as attractive as you can to wildlife. And you've got the native garden, you've got pollinators.
Yes.
So, So,
okay. Well, those are some good suggestions. And I think I'll go out to the Florida Botanical Gardens and take a look at some of these plants. I'm familiar with a lot of them, but not all of them. Mm-hmm. And see what the nursery has after that. To see, that's always a determines what you put in there. It depends on what's available at the time, right?
That's right, it does. So,
the yard recognition program, you had asked me about that, if I had ever, if I had thought about applying for that, and I looked over the requirements for it. And do you want to talk a little bit about that to everybody, what that is?
this has been going on for years. The landscape recognition program or yard recognition program. It's also under the auspices of Florida Friendly Landscape. We have criteria that homeowner has to meet, and if we come out and inspect their yard, we evaluate it, and if everything meets the checklist that we have, which is, it's a kind of strict criteria, but you don't have to meet, it's a point system. Like some categories, if you can get 5 points and maybe there's 8 available or whatever. So a lot of homeowners can meet that. The only thing you really get out of it is a yard sign, but it's a lot of people like that. It gives recognition to their yards. Sometimes their yards will be on the yard tours if they're interested in that. Many of these yards also compete in the WaterWise Awards, which are also part of the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program, and they're a county-wide award. Right now they're taking applications from homeowners. We go out and inspect them for the WaterWise Awards, and that's usage of water. But of course, the landscape also has to look very nice. Some of the things you would need to know if you were interested in the yard recognition program: we don't want invasives there. We won't automatically knock you out. Sometimes if everything else is good and you tell us you're going to be, you don't know it's an invasive, and we point it out and you say, I'm going to get rid of it, then a lot of times that'll be okay with us. You have to comply with all HOA codes and city codes. We've been asked to come out and inspect yards just because the homeowner was having a fight with the city over what they were allowed to do. We will not get into a legal battle over this. It's been done in the past and it's not good. So we won't do it for that reason. And of course, we certainly inspect the irrigation. You have to have a rainfall shutoff device. So there has to be a sensor of some sort there. We went to know that you leave grass clippings on the lawn. You have to have 10 to 15 plant species planted. Not more than 50% of your irrigation can be high volume. 25% of your hardscape must be porous. So these are just some of the criteria for it. And before we come out, we have a phone questionnaire or an email questionnaire in many cases that we send out to you, so that you and us, so we all know that, if we think your yard is going to meet this criteria, then we will come out and evaluate it for you. This is also an educational. It's not just for us to say, you've got this beautiful lawn or your lawn needs a ton of work on it. We're trying to educate homeowners. So we can come out if you don't quite meet it, and we let you know what you need to do to improve it. We'll come out again. And that's the same thing with the Yard Advisor program. You don't have to come to us just once. If you come to us for Yard Advisor, we give you hints and tips, and you say, well, I've got to get started on this. Come back to us again a month or 2 months down the road, and we'll work with you on it. And we'll do that with either of these programs. So,
and I think the thing about the sign in the yard, I think that's a conversation starter. If you have that sign, somebody in the neighborhood might look at it, go, what is that? And then it kind of opens that conversation for maybe somebody else being interested in that, right?
Well, it certainly does, and people like it. I've looked at it, a whole lot of houses, and they're so unique. So many they're just different from each other.
Yeah, I think we have a few pictures here of, like, there's the sign, and that yard that's been recognized, right?
Yeah, yes. That's all, pretty much all native what you're seeing in that picture.
Yeah, And
It's yeah, go ahead. That's native also. Most all of that is.
yeah. Is this the same yard or is this a different yard?
That's the same yard.
Okay. There, so
that's the same yard. I gave you a lot of pictures, but the ones you've taken are from the same yard. But,
yeah, it's really pretty.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that yard that's a cinnamon bark tree on the right, that smaller tree you see. Scorpion tail under the silver buttonwood on the right-hand side. There's native porterweed under the silver buttonwood on the left. There's a firebush there. You can see the weeping Johann polly. Now, what you do see are bougainvillea right in the very front, which is not native, of course, but
right.
Mostly that is native.
Nice yard. Okay. Okay, so I think that kind of covers both of the programs. Is there anything else you want to add? I've thrown a slide up here that kind of gives some resources. The floridayards.org, that has a whole lot of information, and there's a database in there of plants where they're not all natives, but they're Florida friendly. And it's my understanding that's being updated. It has to continually be updated, you know, because invasives are always being added to the list. But there's a database where you can go in and you can say, this is my soil, this is how much sunlight, you know, just put in your requirements and it'll come back and give you suggestions for plants. Of course, there's FNPS.org. Everybody can, you know, knows that. That's a good resource. And there's the link for the homeowners, the yard recognition program, and that will have a lot of information on that. And another resource is the help desk at Extension. So there's two emails for the help desk, and of course, non-COVID times, you could actually go in there and bring if you have a plant that has a problem or anything, you go in there and show them what you have. You know, they'll give you answers on what the issue is, but you can email pictures to either one of these websites or one of these email addresses, and they're really, really quick in responding to you. So that's a real good resource at Extension. So if anybody wants to do a print screen of this or something to get those websites, I'll leave it up there for a minute. And I guess we can go ahead and open it up to any questions, but I think it's a good, for people that are just getting started. You know, we have a lot of new members, I think, in our chapter right now, and maybe people don't know how to get started. And so this is a nice free resource, you know, just to kind of get a conversation going and get started. So thank you, everyone. And if there's any questions, we'll look at the chat and see.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Okay, the yard, can I speak up about the Yard Advisor program?
Uh-huh.
The Yard Advisor, I saw the question, if it's still available. We are not doing it right now. We were shut down in March. We're talking about possibly doing it on Zoom, but we have to even get approval to do that. So we're not to that point yet. I guess we kept thinking we'd be coming back, but that hasn't happened, of course. So
Okay.
It's not being done right now, nor is the landscape recognition. Not even that. We're not allowed to go out and
Okay.
evaluate people's yards. So, and
Yeah.
I saw Sue Edwards said that Doris and Kat recognized her yard. And Doris and Kat are two of the people I work with, as well as Martha Waldrop, but we're all involved in this. So, yeah, so just, you know, we can give the Native Plant Society, and when we know what we're doing, when we're going to start doing these Yard Advisor meetings again, I can let you know, and then you can let your membership know.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Guys,
I
also
know there was a
got
couple
another.
people, we sent this out to all the master gardeners, and a couple came back and said they couldn't make the meeting tonight. So once it's recorded, I'll send out that link to the master gardeners.
Awesome. Guys, we got a question from Ginger about irrigation systems for recognition program. She hand waters when she needs to, but it's only for her new plants. Is there a certain irrigation system that you guys recommend for that recognition program?
For the recognition, you can even have an in-ground system. You just can't have more than 50% high volume on your sprinklers. And you know, if you want to email us, I'll mail you some other information on it. I think you have our email address. No, you don't have our email address there.
And
No,
this is being recorded.
slides, I believe.
Yeah. But yeah, you can also, if you're hand watering, I mean, you can also install a drip irrigation if you want to do that. And that is, you know, a nice way to water.
Yeah.
Here's
No,
the email
definitely.
here. FFLYAP.
That's the Yard Advisor program.
Oh, okay.
I got a question for you guys. When you guys go out, do you have I know there's these lists of plants, but do you personally push more for natives? And are there other Master Gardener volunteers that don't? Do you guys ever have any issues with that? Or are they kind of more, since you guys are volunteering, they let you have your own personal preferences as long as it's not invasive? Like, how does that work? Because, I mean, aren't there still some things that are maybe category 2 invasive that they consider Florida friendly?
Well, are you talking about for the landscape recognition program where we recognize the lawns, or for the Yard Advisor program?
All of it.
All of it. We certainly push for natives, but Florida friendly is what the plants have to be. So they don't have to be native. But of course, the native plants are the ones that lend themselves best to the Florida friendly landscapes. Because
Sure.
once they're established, I mean, the Florida friendly are what's here naturally. So, I mean, the native are what's here naturally, you know, but either one. So it doesn't have to be entirely native, no.
Cool.
I understand that the handbook and the database that has the Florida friendly plants, it's kind of old. And I had heard from an agent, an IFAS agent, that is being updated. So hopefully that is being updated to, if there is any invasives that have been added since that publication,
Right.
that they will be removed from that list.
Yes, and we do, I mean, we give out this every time a homeowner meets with us. We give them one of these Florida friendly landscape guide to plant selection and landscape design books. Those can be ordered online as well. We also give them a pamphlet from the Native Plant Society. So, you know, these are two things we give to homeowners, as well as a book telling all the native nurseries.
That's great. So yeah, we could definitely tell people that if they want to do this eventually, if Pinellas County lets them do it, to ask for you or Pam if they really want to learn more about native stuff when they do eventually send volunteers out again. But I also have a question here from Deb. She was asking, have you guys is it generally supportive, the towns and the cities? Like, I know we're in Pinellas County here. Are they generally supportive of Florida friendly landscaping? I mean, as far as the cities in our county?
The cities are, some homeowner associations are not.
Wow.
You know, some of them are just, they have the people on the board that think a certain way and they are not supportive of it. So, but most places are. I will say that we haven't run into too many problems with that, but we have with some.
I could totally understand that. And just thinking also about the list of plants, who actually puts that list together? Is it from UF botanists, or is it industry, or who actually decides what plants are in those resources you hand out?
Yeah. Decides on the plants that are in the book, the plant selection book?
Yeah.
That would be someone in the University of Florida. I don't know, I'm not sure who does it actually, but It would be somebody in IFAS that puts that book together.
Okay. All right. Do we have?
Yeah, you're like she said, it is, but I don't know the qualifications or anything of the person, but it says based on UF science, so whatever.
Sure. No, just curious.
Let's see. It's updated from time to time, but there are, you know, every once in a while we run into plants in there that were not invasive and now are. So that's why it needs to be updated.
Definitely. And just also speaking from, you know, Nicole, who's in FNPS and is a designer, do you ever get out to a landscape and maybe the homeowner says, okay, that sounds good, but I would like to have maybe some more design? Do you guys do design, or would you refer that out and say, check some local businesses out? What are you guys allowed to do? Like, how far would you go? Is it just suggestions?
Well, our advice is free, and it's certainly not as comprehensive as a landscape designer is going to give a person. And they have much more knowledge than we have. We're master gardeners. I don't have the knowledge somebody that has a degree in landscape design has. I don't have that. But we do have the knowledge we've gained as master gardeners. And what we do, I mean, we use the resources that are available to us, which is anything at the Extension Office or anything with the Native Plant Society. And, you know, we teach people from what we're learning ourselves and from the resources we're using. But as far as designing an entire landscape, no, I wouldn't do that. I mean, we try to give people a lot of help and hints and tips, but you know, if they want something really comprehensive, they're going to need to see a landscape designer.
Yeah, no, I think what you put together was great. I just assume maybe sometimes you come out there and homeowners expect maybe more, even though the resources you give them are very, you know, really good resources. And I really like what you put together for the presentation. I mean, I thought that was great.
Thank you. Sometimes they do want more, you know, but we just have to let them know what our limitations are.
That's awesome. Well, do you guys have anything else that you wanted to add, or does anybody else have any questions? I first of all, of course, want to thank Pam and Maridell for putting together this awesome presentation, but I'll let you guys say anything else you want to say, or does anybody else have any questions?
I think that's all I have, Maridell.
That's all I have as well.
Awesome.
I want to thank everybody for attending tonight.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it, guys. And we are the Pinellas chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. I forgot that part. I'm the vice president. I'm filling in for Michael Coleman while he's on vacation. So I look forward to doing more of these. I really enjoyed the discussion. Definitely appreciate everybody for coming by, and we'll do this again. Thank you again, guys. And this is also recorded, so we will be able to refer back to this. So thank you again so much, everybody.
Thank you, Stephen.